What's going on, y'all? It's Jared at the Land Young Legends podcast. Today, we have some tremendous hosts from the Blitz with Rob and Chris. What's going on, fellas?
What's up? What you guys doing?
All right. Welcome to the show.
Appreciate you.
Please give people a little bit bio about yourself. You know what I'm saying? I listen to y'all podcasts all the time, but my listeners don't know anything about y'all. But that's why I brought you on the show. So speak a little bit about it.
Go ahead, Rob.
All right. So Ben Franklin, graduate class 2005. That's how I met this guy.
01. You was 01, bro. You don't even know when you graduated.
Yeah, man.
I'm about to say what?
Yeah. 01, right? And then went to Morehouse College, finished from Morehouse, came back, went to Tulane. So I'm an attorney now, Saints fan. And so me and Chris, I believe, what was that, the 06 season? We went to a bunch of those games together. So going to all of those games and then kind of hanging out before or after. And then the Super Bowl season, went to his house to watch a bunch of games. We always had a lot of dialogue, a lot of commentary, part of group chats and stuff like that, which kind of led to us listening to a lot of local radio and realizing that we weren't really getting the depth that we sought. And some of the conversations that we had were lacking from the national media and the local media. So that kind of, made us decide to start our own podcast.
Yeah, I mean, just like Rob mentioned, I finished in 2000, so I was a year ahead of him. We played football together. I went on to LSU. We got a mutual friend, Blaze, who's been on the podcast a couple of times. When I finished from LSU in 04, I came back home right when 05, right when I came back home, Katrina hit. Year passed by, we got the draft. Saints draft Reggie Bush. I holler at Blaze and we like, look, bro, we getting season tickets. Rob tagged along with Blaze. So we spent the whole season, going back and forth before games, after games, talking through the game, just all that. And Rob had moved back to the city. I came back home. And so, since then we were cool before that. But since then, the bond got tighter. We always talk sports. Rob is usually wrong. I disagree with him. So, we get into it a lot. So we just thought, it was a good way for me too, because I'm bad with the phone. So it's a good way for me to, once a week, me and Rob get on there, shoot the shit, for about 3-4 hours and just connect. So, we started about a little bit over a year ago now, last May. And
time.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. So we'll push y'all into the podcast arena.
I mean, for me, it was. So I had a friend, Mark Lumberg, who passed away in 2013, I think it is now, 7 years. So me and him were real big sports fans, real good friends. We filmed our first sports podcast, and I think it was maybe a week or two later he passed away, and we never got to post it. So, I had always wanted to do that. I did it with him. And like I said, me and Rob had just connected on, Saints specifically, but sports in general, and always texting back and forth. Hanging out during the holidays, stuff like that. And so we had been talking about this, man, for probably about 5 or 6 years. And, Rob moved to Miami. And ever since then, we just kind of thought that was a way to connect again and just really delve into some sports. And so that we just decided to do it, jumped into it, and here we are.
And I'm not gonna lie, we're in some group text, and there were some people in the group text who would notice the way me and Chris would go back and have strong opinions and stats to back it up and stuff like that. Stuff that would come off the dome with, like recollection from games we watched years ago. Right. And so there would always be somebody who'd be like, "So when y'all starting the podcast?" And then we would always kind of blow it off. And so finally one day it was like, "Listen, we've been talking about this long enough. Like, let's make it happen."
All right, cool. So tell me how did you get started? Like, what tools did you utilize? What software? Because I got a lot of people always ask me about what software I use for my podcasting. So what do you all use?
So we use Zencaster right now. Okay. I had a cousin who had a podcast with his partner about culture, lifestyle. And so kind of just asked around, talked to him a little bit about what he used. And so me and Rob, neither one of us are techies. I'm not going to even lie. Jared, I've contacted you multiple times.
Right.
We was looking for something. Look, we can record, download this shit, and post it. And so right now we've been using Zencaster, but we talking to you about StreamYard, just continues to look for maybe add video and just, keep increasing our brand. So, but right now we're doing Zencaster. We just got added to the Plug 97.9 on internet radio. We also on all podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. When we first decided we were gonna do it, I reached out to actually Blaze's cousin. She's got her own podcast. Grown Ass Dating is the name of her podcast, and so I would listen to that. So I hit her up trying to figure out how she does it, and she gave us a bunch of information. And like Chris said, neither one of us are techies, so I was trying to figure out which one was the easiest. So when Chris decided that he knew somebody who used Zencastr, we decided that. And when I was going on all these different platforms, I decided to make our website through GoDaddy and then post the podcast on SoundCloud. Now, moving forward, we realized that using Anchor, which I think you might have told us about.
Yes.
Post on a bunch of different platforms. I was doing SoundCloud, and then I was posting to Apple myself. And that's a lot of work, every week to post to SoundCloud, go to GoDaddy, upload it onto GoDaddy, then go to Apple. And then I was trying to figure out how to get to Spotify. And I was going to be doing all of these different platforms. So that's when we decided to just take the Zencastr document and put it on Anchor, which Zencastr allows us to do. And then also still keep it on Spotify. Because, once you do so many weeks on one platform, you could tell everybody that you're changing, but there's always the fear you're going to lose some people. So we kept it on Spotify. I still put it on GoDaddy, but I had researched Bluehost in a number of different places that probably would have been more efficient. But just because we weren't the most tech savvy, that's how it all, played out. That's where we are now. And we may update, going forward. Okay,
cool. All right. And how did you all, congratulations on the 97.9?
97.9, the plug. Yeah.
The plug. So yeah. How did that become? How did you get on associated with that?
So we also have a friend we went to high school with who is associated with it, advertising. And so she's been listening to the pod. I've been talking with her about, expanding the brand, just trying to reach a different audience, reach a broader audience. And so she had to connect us to the engineer. And so 2 weeks ago, actually, we're on the plug 97.9 at 6:30 p.m. Central, 7:30 p.m. Eastern every Monday night.
All right, that's cool. That's what's up. Congratulations on that.
Appreciate it.
So doing all this, so how's your work-life balance? Both of you all have full-time careers as well outside of the podcasting. So how do you, and you all have families. So how do you all manage the work-life balance?
Go ahead, Rod.
I mean, for me, I don't have a family. So Sunday nights, I just try to find my way to the computer whenever he's ready, because I know he does have a family. So we kind of have a standing appointment. That used to be somewhat negotiable, but now they're on 979 The Plug, and they expect their hour-long file for 7:30 Eastern time. You really pretty much have to record Sunday night, because if you record any earlier in the week, you might miss some relevant sports stuff that comes up, or just relevant stuff that happens in society. I'm a big fan of the Joe Budden podcast. I listen to that a lot, and they do the same thing. Like, I noticed listening episode to episode, they're always recording Friday night, and then it's there for early Saturday morning. So I just make it work. I fortunately have not been in a situation where I had some big project for work that overlapped since we started doing, the radio show. But previously, we would just move around the day if either one of us had some big work commitment.
Yeah, I mean, Rob single, ready to mingle. So I gotta work around him in the street. You know what I'm saying?
In the Miami streets.
Yeah, I gotta work around his dating. His happy hours. So, it's really just trying to make myself, available when he not on, a date. But
putting that man business on blast like that, man.
Everybody already know he on social media, man. They already. But I got an 8-year-old son, so me and my wife working during the week. On the weekends, we try to spend as much time together with the family as possible. Get it on, do what we got to do. But like Rob said, we kind of got to stand an appointment now in the evening. So I try to hop on. I see about 8. Probably get down there around 9:15. But I know Rob ain't got nothing to do. He up late. So yeah, we normally get on there. Then start talking. We do a little pre-pod for about an hour, just catch up, talk about the week in sports, kind of how we want to, go about discussing different topics, and then hit that recording zone.
All right, cool. All right. So What would you tell somebody who wants to get into the podcast industry or media, digital media, anything? What would you recommend the steps they should do to get into?
I would say
one thing I'll say is just what I just described. Like, we probably should have done a little bit more of that homework out front, because once you establish your platform and you get a little bit of a following, it's a little bit harder to try to start changing the website from GoDaddy to Bluehost, from SoundCloud to Anchor, and to maintain that audience and switch over. You probably should just take the time on the front end and make sure you have things the way you want it before you even start, putting it out there.
Yeah, I would just say, like Rob mentioned, just do your homework on the front end. If you know people who have podcasts, see what platforms they're using, how easy it is to download, to combine. Like for us specifically, Rob's in Miami, I'm in New Orleans, and so we got some challenges with trying to record remotely and syncing up the files. So you got to have a program that's allowing you to consolidate, two separate audio files, or filming or recording you at the same time. So just kind of taking in your individual situation. And then I would say on a content tip, just try to take notes throughout the week. I try to create like a little Google Doc for me and Rob to kind of follow, because, you can get off topic real quick. And especially us, we like to talk and we like to get into weeds. So just trying to outline yourself so you kind of have an idea of where you want to go throughout the podcast to keep it efficient and within your time frame you need it to record.
All right, cool. So y'all been doing a lot of podcasting for a long time. So I always like to ask my guests this. So what was the worst mistake y'all made on the podcast, and how did y'all bounce back from that?
I don't think we've had any real bad mistakes, but what I was just thinking about was, like you were talking about with Zencastr, the worst thing has been when those audio files don't sync, and you spend an hour recording a podcast, and especially if you think you got it, on point, and then it doesn't upload. Then the next day you turn around and you hit Zencastr up like, hey, we need our recording. And we've had some situations where it couldn't be restored at all. So you just, we haven't had that since we started doing 979 The Plug, but, knock on wood, that's really annoying. And you don't want to be sitting there. Now it's Sunday night, 11 midnight, and you starting to re-record the same pod that you just lost like that.
Yeah, I would say it's not a big, I think, one-time thing. I think for us is staying committed to a definitive time. Like, before we're on the radio, we kind of could go as long as we want. And so sometimes we would run over. We want to keep it no more than 1 hour and 30. And we would start bleeding into that 1 hour and 40, Rob a little long-winded, so a little bit going, and it's hard to stop us. You got so many things you want to cover. And because, like Rob mentioned, if you don't talk about it now, in a week, it could be, irrelevant. So trying to keep the content relevant, sometimes we had to, try to rein it in a little bit. And I think having a radio programming be an hour has kind of forced us to stick to a timeline and just, hey, that's what we got. So I would say timing for sure.
Especially when you have guests too, because, you got 3 people in every segment. Like, we don't put a time next to the segment before we start. We just try to self-manage. But when you have 3 people like that and you don't necessarily know what the next person's going to say, time becomes really hard to manage.
Right. I get you. I understand that. So since the incident with the Zencastr, so do y'all have like a backup software that y'all use? Like, do y'all do like audio recording, use your phones for backup, or y'all just still trusted Zencastr?
We use that network, bro. And we got a couple, we got a friend's kid who's, a semi-audio engineer. We got you. If we in a bind, we just got to reach out to the network.
Right. The issue is never that his file always records and my file always records. I think it's just the process of syncing them together that Zencastr botches sometimes. So we can always send those audio files to other people to fix it for us when we need it fast, like that.
Okay. Cool. I understand that. So let's forget about the negative now. So let's talk about the positive. So when was that moment that y'all show went to the next level, when y'all knew it was a success? Y'all knew y'all had your chemistry. Y'all knew it pretty much. Y'all had everything in the gumbo smelling good. So how did y'all know? What was that moment?
I'm gonna let Chris go on now. I feel like he got some text messages that told him when people were like, y'all in y'all bag now. Like you feel like it looks like tennis, it's back and forth. It's seamless transitions.
Yeah, so I think we had a couple wins. Specifically for me too, is that first one, recording that first one and posting it. That was big for me, just to finally put it on wax. Having done it, like I said before, never posting it. It was just like that moment where it's like, all right, cool, we gonna do it. We did it, and now we here to kind of solidify it. And so I say that first episode was really important for me to get over that hump and to really put it to wax. Then I would say I think our first really big episode where I got a lot of feedback, positive feedback, was we did an episode on Kaepernick and whether he was when he had the workout that failed, and Myles Garrett when he hit the quarterback from Pittsburgh.
Okay.
So
funny.
Me and Rob are pretty mild mannered, but and we disagree tastefully, but I would say on that one we kind of went at it a little bit, and I got a lot of positive feedback from that episode specifically.
Yeah, people seem to like the Skip and Shannon vibe. I mean, if people are co-signing each other for 50 minutes to an hour, like that's really, it's not that interesting to people.
So yeah, I would say definitely those for sure.
Okay, that's cool. That's understandable. All right. So since y'all love to talk debate about sports, I was gonna go lead off with the Drew Brees, but I'll wait for that. I'm gonna wait for that.
I got a lot to say.
Hey, I'm gonna wait for that.
I'm agree on that one. So I'm just gonna give you a preview on it.
All right. So I'm gonna wait on that. So I'm gonna jump straight into the NBA. So what are your feelings about the NBA striking a deal with Disney to host the rest of this NBA season and playoffs and championship at the resort in Orlando? What are y'all feelings about that? I'll start with Chris.
Well, first of all, I hope it happens. I don't know if people watching right now, but Kyrie starting to uprise.
I know.
I would just posted something, and frankly, it's pissing me off. I ain't got a goddamn thing to watch. And to be honest, I'm gonna get into the basketball, but I really disagree with Kyrie and some of these other guys coming out, because if you're really trying to fight the cause, the biggest thing you could do, in my opinion, is to have the platform of the NBA and millions are watching. Yeah, you got a lot of people watch CNN, but you got a lot of people who don't watch the news. You got a lot of people who don't read the paper. You have older people who don't get on social media. So the one common theme is a lot of people watch sports. And so you're getting all these people from, who watch news, who read papers, who on social media, all coming to this one platform. And you're going to be the only thing on the first big team sports on TV in the last 5 months. And so the platform doesn't get any bigger than that. So if you're trying to make a difference, what bigger platform to Black Lives Matter, to put out your cause? So that's my first thing about that. In terms of the bubble in Orlando, I'm just glad they're trying to make a comeback. But me and Rob talked about this last episode. I don't understand them doing the whole bubble thing. In a month, if they come back July 31st, and then the NFL is coming back at the end of August in college football, and they're talking about having fans in the stadium, Superdome, Tiger Stadium, you name it, any other arena. Why is the NBA not providing sports in their arenas? I just don't, because they've waited so long. I think it's almost irrelevant to put them in a bubble if you're talking about 60,000 people in the Superdome. And so from that perspective, I'm just glad they're coming back, but I'm not sure the NBA is doing themselves any favors about going to the bubble.
All right.
I'll say this. I think that maybe the idea of the bubble is preemptive, because I'm here in Miami. We opened up maybe 2 weeks ago, and they're already talking about closing us back because the cases are skyrocketing. The cases are skyrocketing because of the protests. The cases are skyrocketing because this is a tourist economy. Miami's a tourist economy. And so the minute you say you open up, the hotels on Miami Beach open up and the beach opens up, you now welcome tourists from all over the world. So whatever reduction in numbers you saw are now going to spike back up. So maybe that's something that's going to end up happening nationally anyway. So the issue being basketball is probably not going to start till July. And the thought is at the end of July, by the time basketball comes around, I think they said the playoffs will start on like August 13th. But by that time, we could be experiencing a second wave. So maybe the thought process is to be prepared in case the second wave comes, that you won't have to shut down again. Because once you start you create your basketball schedule and you get your sponsorship, your TV commercials and all of that, you don't want to give that up a second time. So I think that the thought process might have been to ready yourself for the worst possible scenario, which is a second wave. In terms of them playing, I mean, I tend to agree to a certain extent with, I think, was it Lou Williams now, Dwight Howard, Kyrie Irving, and Steven Jackson. I tend to agree that people make protests less. Once basketball starts being played, they have something to stay inside and watch. But I think where I agree with Chris is just that I don't know how much more additional protesting is going to take you across the finish line. There's a lot of different things, and the finish line to me being action, like actual, policy that's put into place and seeing different changes being actually made. And there's a lot of different ways that changes can be made. And like Chris is saying, one of them is through players coalition stepping forward and pushing for different legislation. These commercials that are going to take place during these games, you can have dedicated commercials to whatever issues that you want to push. You can, during your interviews, because, there's always a player profile during the playoffs and players are interviewed. You can say whatever you want to say in those interviews. They could do coordinated things, before the game, during the national anthem. There's a number of different ways. If your sole concern is the reduction in protest, which loses the attention, you now have 3 hours every night on television to focus the attention on the protest as well as the game that you're playing. So to me, that's it's short-sighted. And then we're going to talk a little bit on the podcast. There's probably also massive legal ramifications from you have a collectively bargained for season and you're just going to cancel, not because of COVID-19, but because of protest. At that point, you're essentially striking, right? And if you're striking and you have no actual labor dispute that you're striking for, there's likely some punishment for that that's written into the CBA that I don't know if all those guys have even accounted for.
Oh, that's the attorney talk right there.
Yeah, that's illegal advice.
That's illegal advice right there. Yeah, I heard Dame Lillard and Carmelo was speaking on it from as far as their main focus was on COVID and being susceptible to it, playing in Orlando with other players. And they wanted to know, they want to know more information because they don't know a lot. And pretty much the league hasn't told them everything. And that's their biggest issue. I think most players want to play. And I want them to play as well, Chris. You know what I'm saying? I trust me. I want them to play now.
A month ago.
Yeah, a month ago. You know what I'm saying? And I respect their opinions, and their safety and stuff like that. But they got people out here who work at a grocery store making $10 an hour, and you got the opportunity to play in a bubble, making millions, and you can impact because everybody in the world is going to watch everything you do. Yep. Because there's nothing else going on. So I think the players need to play. They need to fight for the cause, have more visibility. They can even do a partnership with the NBA, a Black Lives Matter campaign, like Rob was saying. So I think it's more beneficial if they play in July.
And just to point out, too, I think it was unfair. Patrick Beverley came out and kind of took a jab at LeBron, saying if LeBron want to play, we playing. Basically saying like LeBron is only in it for the legacy, and he only wants to play because he has a legit shot at a championship. And I think that's unfair criticism of LeBron, for one, because he's a target already, and then two, this guy I think has been the most influential in proactive player in terms of calling out injustices to social reform in the last 30 years in basketball specifically.
And starting actual campaigns for whatever the issue is. I don't know if y'all saw, there were long lines at the polls in a lot of black neighborhoods in Georgia, and he immediately started a voter rights group with his own money. So the idea, like, come on, a lot of these guys who are saying this stuff, it's what actions have you actually taken? I'm pretty sure if you give LeBron the chance, he'll take the lead on this once the season starts.
Right.
I agree. All right, so we're still on the NBA. So what do you think about the NBA going with the top 22 teams left in the league? Of course, the bottom third, nobody really wants to see them anyway. So what are your thoughts about the 22 teams, especially the Pelicans? But we'll talk about the Pelicans after this segment.
Yeah, this is another place where we disagree.
Okay, let's go, Rob.
Yeah, because personally, I just felt like bring them back. If you're going to play 5 to 7 games, I felt like they should get everybody to a number. So if they were at 65 games, say the number is 72, Everybody plays however many games they need to get to 72, and then we go into the playoffs. I didn't agree with this idea that like there's some teams that are so far off that they were just like, we're not going to come back and play 7 more games. You're a part of the NBA. What do you mean you're not going to come back and play 7 more games? And I think the fix to that was this 22 thing, and not only the 22 thing, but then taking by percentage as opposed to record, and then having the play-in game. All that was to make these friends teams feel like they had a chance. Whereas from my perspective, I kind of felt like it's unfair to an 8 seed team to now all of a sudden be subjected to these new rules with 5 games left in the season, and potentially all your work over 65 games are now subjected to a 5-game schedule and a play-in game. I didn't really like that. I felt like that was acquiescing to these teams who were threatening to not come back and play. And I felt like you're a team in the NBA. If the league is coming back, you need to be there regardless of how many games you got left and regardless of how far you are removed from the possibility of going to the playoffs.
Listen, I love it. I love it. First of all, the Warriors could sit home and watch just like me because that's what they deserve. They don't deserve opportunity to play no more and waste my time watching. Okay, Sacramento Kings, don't want to see them. I can't even name 10 teams in the Eastern Conference, so they only need 9 because I can't name the other 6 or 7 anyways. But I'm gonna tell you, listen, man, I'm excited. Rob is tripping, bro. Listen, when you got the Pelicans and Zion Williamson, listen, it's all about show, right? It's about trying to get them eyes and get people interested in watching. And frankly, nobody wants to watch Memphis, and that's why they're doing this, right? They don't want Memphis in the playoffs.
That's unfair. That's fun.
I don't know why Memphis is good. You got John Moran and other cat. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, Jai is good, but you can't name 3 players on the squad. You know what I'm saying? So, and really, I think everybody wants to see LeBron and Zion, but just in general terms, because
and Lonzo, because you got that whole group of people that the Lakers traded away. So
exactly.
You get Josh Hart, Lonzo, and B.I., Brandon Ingram, get that chance for that revenge that's what they want. You know?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you know, frankly, Rob worried about the kid with the D that's just trying to pass, right? You don't get to say so how the curve works. Your ass back in the goddamn curve, steal your ass right there, and take your D and roll with it. All right. So I love it. I love it. I think it's exciting. I think they need to look into doing a play-in game every year because basketball got too many teams in the playoffs. And baseball, I don't agree with it because you got teams playing 162 games for a 1-game play. And that's cool.
Games. There's still a lot of games.
But for the 8 seed in basketball, too many teams. In baseball, I think it's 4 in each conference. In basketball, you got 18. It's too many damn teams anyway. So at least give me the most exciting team.
I agree. I agree with Chris. I think it's more exciting.
A lot today, bro.
I'll also say Melo and Lillard not being in the playoffs, and Portland was fun to watch last year. So for them to not be in it at all is probably like the NBA is like, yeah. I mean, Memphis, when we got Portland on the outside and New Orleans would make for excitement, they're trying to find a way to usher Memphis right on out of that 8 spot.
And look, one last thing, Jared, before we go switch topics. Can Kyrie not be the lead dog and his ass not even playing? Like you're not even playing, bro. Go sit down.
Right. And Kyrie, I don't know why he even saying anything.
And he agreed to play when the COVID issue was voted on. It was passed. What was it, like 28-0 or something like that?
Exactly. Yep.
And so for people to come back now, you look crazy because you're trying to make it look like it's about COVID-19, but then it's about the protest. But the protest isn't a legitimately collectively bargained for issue for you to not play. So It's just they need to go talk to the Players Association before they say anything else.
You need to go research the world is flat.
That guy should never be speaking on your back.
Right.
So y'all, so both y'all in agreement, Kyrie should be speaking it out.
No.
That's one thing. Since we started this podcast, every time Kyrie comes up, is
But if he want to come on a Blitz, he's more than welcome.
Oh yeah, well, most definitely, I know that.
In his position as to why he thinks the world is flat.
Oh, that's funny. All right. So since we're still talking about the NBA, so we are from New Orleans, so we love the Pelicans. So what do you think the Pelicans' chances on making the playoffs in the in game, whatever it's called, in play, in buy-in tournament,
Right.
whatever? What do y'all think the go ahead.
So I'm a little bit confused about the scheduling, right? Like I don't know if they're gonna just pick up where they left off because
They can't because it's not only 22
9 teams, not even going. So I'm still a little unclear about how the schedule looks to say whether I think they can make it. Because I know based on their regular season schedule in the last 20 games, the schedule got a lot easier. So I'm a little curious as to how the scheduling works out. But I like our chances. I mean, I think pound for pound, you look at, our starting roster: Lonzo, JJ Redick, Zion Williamson. I think we got a lot of solid pieces. They're young, but we got a solid foundation outside of JJ Redick. But I don't give us much of a chance in the playoffs to beat the Lakers, but I think I give them a chance to make it exciting to try to get in that 8 seed.
How about you, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, we are like, I don't know, the Grizzlies got 32 wins, we got 28. It really, a lot of it just depends on, is the play-in game going to only be 8 versus 9? And then my understanding is it's based on percentages. So like Chris said, it's going to come down a lot too, because we're a game behind the Trailblazers. So all we essentially, from what I'm hearing, is we need to do is catch the Trailblazers percentage-wise, because I think everybody plays 5 games. So if everybody plays 5 games, and to date we've played 1 less game than them, we just need to catch them percentage-wise, in which case you get that 1 playing game against the Grizzlies. Now, that's going to be difficult to get to that playing game. The Grizzlies, like we say, I mean, the Trailblazers, like we're saying, with the talent they have on their roster, knowing that they basically have a slight advantage over us and just need to match us in those 5 games. A lot of it's going to come down to scheduling and who each team plays in those 5 games. And it's going to come down to, does the NBA try to mimic what your remaining 20 was going to look like with this remaining 5? But, if you come out there and you get the Lakers, if you draw the Lakers and the Clippers and stuff like that in that last 5 games, I mean, it's going to be difficult to pass the Trailblazers. But I like us in a 1-game play-in against the Grizzlies. Like Chris said, I mean, realistically, I think they just traded for Justice Winslow. I know that because I go to a lot of Heat games, but beyond that, I mean,
the Grizzlies just traded for.
Yeah, right before everything shut down.
Yeah, right before COVID hit.
Okay. I didn't realize that. Oh, that's a good pickup.
But he had been hurt most of the season for the Heat anyway, so I don't know, if he's going to be. He's had months off, so maybe he will be ready to play now.
Okay. All right. And so, since we're still on the NBA, so depending on the structure, let's just say right now the top 16 teams they get in, no matter what the NBA format is. Who are your top picks to get to the championship?
Love LeBron to death, but I think it's Clippers Bucks. Personally, that's what I think it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like I said, the East is weak. I think the Bucks gonna come out there. I don't think anybody can stop the Greek freak. I think you got Miami out there who's hot. Jimmy Butler was on a roll before COVID hit.
And I will say that I heard potentially that Cousins now can come back.
Okay.
He may be healed, and that the Heat are one of the teams looking at him. That could change everything.
Yeah. So the Bucks still haven't done it. So I'm not 100% sold on it, but I would say that they're my favorites to go. And then in the West, man, it's LeBron a bust, baby. LeBron trying to cement that legacy. The Clippers, listen, they got Kawhi and Paul George, but frankly, Paul George is all right. I think he get a little more credit than he deserves. He's solid player.
Hold on. Paul George is the monster. He's the beast. He could play offensive and defense. You know what I'm saying?
How many times has he ever been to the second round of the playoffs? He has. He played.
Yeah.
He faced the Heat and lost.
I thought he went with the Pacers. Then he take him to the Eastern Conference Championship.
Yeah, he took to East Conference Finals one time. But when you look at number 2s, right? We're talking about AD versus Paul George. I think I don't see the Clippers.
Everything that happens after that is the problem for the Lakers.
I think AD is a major problem. Though. We got a lot of hate coming from New Orleans for AD, and I'm not a huge fan either. But when you look at matchups, I just don't think the Clippers can match up with AD.
Okay.
And the same with Cousins now too, because Cousins was with the Lakers. So does he choose to go back to them, and can he give them some minutes? That's a big roster with Dwight Howard, potentially Anthony Davis, and Cousins.
I agree. I would love to see the Lakers and the Clippers in the Western Conference Finals.
Oh, yeah, that's the finals.
That's Game 7 right there.
That's what everybody's waiting for.
That's Game 7. So whoever win out that series, I think will win the championship.
Agreed.
And I think if Cousins come back and is healthy and can play, I think he gives them a slight edge over the Clippers. Because me personally, I prefer the Clippers to beat the Lakers. I'm still a little kind of pissed at AD. But I'm a LeBron James lover too. So either way, whoever wins, of course I want LeBron to win the championship because I'm tired of people talking about like he ain't the GOAT. Anyway. I'm just
you need to listen to the last episode of our podcast.
Last week episode, we went into it. I murdered Rob on this. You know what I'm saying?
That's my next question. We about to get into it right now. So everybody was watching the Last Dance documentary on ESPN. It was great. It was well put together. 10 episodes. It was. I learned some stuff on inside of the Chicago Bulls. Michael Jordan was just a
asshole.
Well, yeah. He always wanted the best out you. So to this age-old question, who is the GOAT? LeBron James or Michael L. Jordan? I'm gonna go with Chris first since he's LeBron James.
Listen, it's an easy debate. Frankly, I think The Last Dance. I think when you talk about we're all captured by our imagination about how we grew up. Jordan comes at a time in the 90s when most of us were growing up. We were kids. When you look at the sports media today, when you look at Michael Wilbon, Andrea Kramer, Mike Greenberg on Get Up, all these guys' careers was built upon the greatness of Michael Jordan. And so they're very biased towards Michael Jordan. And that's not to take anything away from MJ, right? He got 6 championships. He was the greatest player in his era. But I think not enough credit in The Last Dance specifically was given to Scottie Pippen. I think he basically shitted on Scottie. He starts the doc saying Scottie's the best teammate I ever had. Then he went on a 10-episode run of shitting on every major mistake Scottie ever made. He glossed over the greatness of Phil Jackson. And so I think when you start looking at these things, when you talk about greatest player of all time, if you specifically target the player, I think LeBron's the greatest. But I would say Michael had the best coach out of the two. LeBron has had like 3 or 4 rookie coaches that he's played under in his 15 years. When you talk about the best number 2 guy, I think Scottie Pippen is the best. I think Dwayne Wade was probably the best number 2 under LeBron. And I think Pippen is better than D Wade. So I think he had the best Robin to his Batman. And then I think at a time like now, when you talk about historic social reform and off the court impact, I think LeBron is second to none. And I think that's where I think LeBron kind of supersedes Jordan. And I think you see LeBron kind of leading the path and Jordan following in that way because the Jordan brand just committed to $100 million, which I applaud Jordan for stepping up. But I think he's taking that lead set by LeBron, that standard set by LeBron. And I think off the court impact is a big part of the historical legacy when you look at both players.
All right, Rob, what's your take on that? Who you got?
It's Michael Jordan. All right, it's Michael Jeffrey Jordan. When you talk about LeBron James, physically gifted as an athlete, but like we talked about on the podcast, 10 scoring titles Michael Jordan had. Michael Jordan played in the league, I want to say 15 years. You take away the 2 Washington Wizards years, so now you're down to 13. If you remember from The Last Dance, he pretty much missed one whole season with injury. And then you have another season where he came back late because he was coming back from baseball. So now you're pretty much down to 11 full seasons that Michael Jordan played in his prime. He was the scoring champion in 10 of them, right? He also had all defensive awards. We had the number last time out. Was it 9 all defense?
Yeah, it was 9.
Yeah. So essentially in 10 of 11 years, he led the league in scoring. And 9 of 11 years, he was one of the most dominant defensive players in the NBA. LeBron has 1 scoring title. And I think 5 all defenses?
6.
So what I'll say about LeBron is this. It's a different era, so player movement, I'll give him that. If LeBron gets his 4th championship, and that would be 4 championships with 3 different teams, and he finishes top 5 in assists and number 1 overall in points, I would say that the body of his entire career has surpassed Michael Jordan's. I don't think that with regard to the way they're remembered, LeBron can ever really live down some of his failures, like the Dallas Mavericks series, because when we look at Michael Jordan's career, he never had a moment like that in the playoffs where for a 7-game series, he couldn't even give you over 20 points. That just never happened. Regardless of what style of defenses were being played, who the coaches were, who the second best player on the team was, you never saw a series where Michael Jordan got eliminated and he averaged less than 20 points for the entirety of a playoff series. That just didn't happen. So I think that's why I think LeBron can retire with a greater resume, but I think that Michael Jordan will always have the minds of the people in terms of being considered the GOAT.
I just want to say one thing right quick, because I didn't get a chance to say this last week.
Come on, bring it. You left a lot on the table last week, but
for all the glory and the praise Jordan gets for his competitiveness, let's not forget, even in a documentary, after 3 consecutive championships, he was so tired of all the criticism around him, going to the casino one night against the Knicks. He was so tired from all the baggage. LeBron went to 8 straight finals and 8 straight finals appearances, all with social media. I can't imagine Jordan being in today's game if he couldn't take, the newspaper, the Chicago Tribune criticism, much less 20 million social media followers. So I forgot to mention that.
You got a rebuttal to that, Rob?
I mean, Jordan was physically exhausted. Like I said on the pod, when you look at Jordan's average minutes, he was taking no nights off. Those early years in his career was 82, 82, 82, 82. There was no load management back then. And he was dominating on the offensive and defensive end. And there were no nights off, which LeBron admits that now in his, throughout his career, he's taken a lot of defensive possessions off and sometimes takes nights off even while on the court. Doesn't necessarily engage himself physically to try to save some for later on. So I think that the idea that he retired because of just the mental, I think we're leaving out the physical pounding of playing the way that they did back then. And plus, just science. They didn't have the, dedication to, their body in terms of having doctors and chefs and, people 24/7 around the clock catering to their physical needs.
Well, I have to go with Chris on this because I'm LeBron James, love all day. Because I'm just saying, I mean, LeBron has taken some garbage.
Thank you.
As teams to the finals with a rookie head coach, coaches who I don't think they even made it to the playoffs after they finished coaching LeBron.
Right.
LeBron, he does everything. He's the ball handler. He's the leading scorer. He's the best defender. He's the best passer. He does literally everything on the court for the team. You seen what happened to Cleveland after he left? What happened, Chris?
No playoffs. Even with Kyrie.
Exactly. So
Eastern Conference is trash. Eastern Conference is trash when LeBron went to 8 straight finals.
Oh my God.
Even more of a reason why they couldn't make the playoffs.
Wait. The second best team during this, the best team probably that LeBron faced during those runs in the Eastern Conference was probably a Paul George-led Indiana Pacers, who you just sat up here and called trash. That was the best person you was playing against was Paul George on the Pacers in the Eastern Conference.
That was a solid team, though. Solid team, all-around team.
And
listen, that's another thing, Jerry. You brought up a great point. I think, too, sometimes because Jordan went 6-0, he lost 3 straight years to the Pistons. LeBron was so great. He brought, like you said, trash teams to the finals, and now his legacy is tarnished because he overachieved. And I think that's unfair when people look to the finals record.
Right, I agree with that 100%. Because if you look at how many he took, Mike Spoelstra, he took, I can't think the Russian guy's name. He took the black head coach with the bald head. I can't think his name either.
Yeah.
Um,
Ostra, Mike Brown.
He took one more coach.
Tyronn Lue.
Tyrone Lue.
David Black.
David Black. I mean, he took coaches who
Black got fired mid-season.
Yeah.
Or he didn't. Then he took. Then he went with him last year. First year he took it from first year, and almost won. To be honest with you, they could have won
without Kyrie and Kevin Love.
Because that's the year Kyrie and Kevin Love got injured.
Yep.
I believe so.
Did the shoulder against the Celtics, and then Kyrie got the game winner.
Right. And I believe if Kyrie and Kevin Love was playing, the Warriors would never won in that dynasty. Would never been formed. Anyway, that's another story, another day.
Right.
LeBron James is the GOAT, just for the simple fact that no matter what team he's on, no matter his roster, they gonna make it to the playoffs and they championship caliber teams because he's on the roster. I know last year with the Lakers, it was just too much. He had was injured. He was injured. He had the head coach Luke Walton. It was just the whole Lakers franchise was discombobulated. They had a leadership general manager with Magic Johnson.
Right.
It was just too much.
It was a lot.
So with the trade, they got new blood. They got AD. Everybody got their mind right. Everybody follow LeBron, and as you can see, they're the top team in the league right now. All right. Besides that, so let's get into the NFL. Right. Let's get into the NFL. So recently, the NFL commissioner apologized for the way they handled the kneeling incidents and how players were responding to social injustice and police brutality. Do you all believe that the apology was genuine or is just for show? I'll start with Rob.
Day late and a dollar short. I mean, I said on the podcast, I think Goodell's whole career is being a day late and a dollar short. And so to me, it's on brand for him to say something when he had to. But listen, I'm not going to just single the NFL out. Like just in our text conversations, we've been joking all week. The Bachelor finally has a black contestant. I think The Bachelor's been around for like 25 years. Yep. Johnson & Johnson's finally making brown Band-Aids. Somebody texted me and they were like, it's like corporations just realized black people exist. Everybody's doing stuff that they should have been doing for the last 40 or 50 years. And we're all supposed to sit around and give them a round of applause for these like late handouts. And to be honest with you, what bothers me to some extent about all of it is that I feel like we're being given pacifiers, right? And in my opinion, now's the time to actually push for actual change in terms of legislation or whatever you think each industry needs. It's the time to push for that because they are going to Starbucks, this one, that one. They're going to email us to death, apologize us to death, and not actually do anything. And so for me, Goodell giving that statement, it's like, dude, you just going where the money is. Like everybody's decided now that this is wrong. And so you're going with the masses, which is fine because when you did it the first time, you were probably protecting your financial interests. But when you're doing it this time, you're protecting your financial interests. So I'm not really like, what am I supposed to say to that? You did what you needed to do to try to not lose sponsorship. So like, good job, but I'm not, you don't deserve any rewards for that. And globally, it's starting to annoy me. Every time I open my email and I see another one from another corporation, I'm like, it's getting out of hand now.
Well, I think what it really comes from is from when Nike signed Kaepernick to that deal, and they saw how the black community supported Nike and how much money they made, even their stock went up. And it's how much revenue they got from the black community. So I think organizations are realizing if we cater to the black community, we gonna get that $1 trillion
spend money.
We like to spend money. Our culture, we like to spend money. So they trying to cater to that now. I think
there's a lot of white people who are now supporting, these issues, and so they're
safe.
Afraid. Yeah, it's safe. It's safe and necessary because you're afraid of losing those white people who are now black and black people.
Right. I think my response is same. That apology ain't worth the toilet paper I wipe my what with. You know what I'm saying? Like it's trash, it's garbage. I've laid out the way you treated Kaepernick was how you really felt. This man called it out 4 years ago and you blackballed him. And so now when 10 of the top 15, 20 players in the league come out with a commercial led by Michael Thomas and Patrick Mahomes, who's the best player in your league currently and who's also a black quarterback, forces your hand, then like Rob mentioned, right? Goodell does what he always does. He's reactionary. And so he reacted. And so now it's just, you showed your true hand in the last 4 years. And now overnight, I'm supposed to accept the apology and think it's genuine. It's not. So I want to ask y'all this question. I know it's your pod, Jared. I just got a quick question. What are y'all expectations of companies, right? Because my wife now, before she buys anything, she's going on social media. Did they apologize? Did they post Black Lives Matter? And so for me, I'm like, I don't really care what they post because as Rob mentioned, right? This has been issued for years. Now it's just safe to do it. And so if people see it, they feel like, oh, okay, they care. But my thing is, one post doesn't mean you care. And you've shown yourself too many years before this. So I don't have much expectations. And I'm frankly not checking to see what they're doing. But I feel like a lot of people, her and her friends talk about that a lot. Like, have they posted anything about the movement?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really checking, but I will say, like, you can easily mess this up. Like, you can either post nothing and I probably won't care that much, or you can post something and I might continue to buy from you. But if you like suppress your employees' attempts to do something like Starbucks, or post something like All Lives Matter, well, now you fumbled the ball and you losing all the bags that was due to come to you, as far as I'm concerned. Then I will actively not seek out other methods to buy whatever I was previously buying from you.
I agree. Like, I don't really check for that anymore. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't believe the corporations. They're just apologizing just for it's a fad right now. So I don't do all that. I mean, I buy what I need from who I need it, who's closest. You know what I'm saying? Who's cost effective. So we talked about Roger Goodell.
Here it
comes. So let's talk about supposed to be the greatest Saint ever, New Orleans Saint ever, the almighty Drew Brees.
Drew who?
Drew Brees, the man who should retire about 3-4 seasons ago.
Don't do him that. I wish I remember what number podcast it was. Christopher Winden came on there and called Drew Brees the greatest quarterback of all time.
Really?
And statistically, he is, but he also has no empathy or consideration for Black people now. so now, from this point on, he's Saints QB1. Said that you don't see me or my people, I don't see you. You QB1 from now on. That's how I feel.
All right.
But let me tell y'all. Let me tell y'all a little story right quick.
All right, go ahead.
What if I told you a guy, last name Brees, stole a cell phone, right? And you saw him steal it, but you said, "Look, why you stole the cell phone? I didn't steal it." And you gave him the benefit of doubt. You said, "Okay, I saw you steal it, but I'm gonna give you the benefit of doubt." 4 years later, he steals a car. So now it's like, hold up, bro. Can't steal a car. I didn't steal it, but we got pictures of the car in your driveway. So then the next day he says, "You're right, I stole." And not only did I steal, I'm admitting to it, but now I'm gonna be an advocate against theft. Would you believe him? Is that genuine?
False equivalency.
Hey, I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
I mean, that's just two different sides of the spectrum. But that's a great point, dude. That is a very good point. That is a very great point.
But like in all seriousness, Drew showed us who he was 4 years ago, right? The Saints fans, and I'm one of them. I didn't agree with him. I was a little pissed at him, and I noticed that no Saints player took a knee after he made that statement, and I was a little upset about that.
Did they take a knee? Was it before the statement? Because they took it before the national anthem, right?
What's that? The
first time? Collectively took a knee before the national anthem.
Yeah, they did that after he did that, I believe.
Gotcha. Yeah, that was after. Yeah.
But again, that didn't count either because a lot of teams did that. Jerry Jones did that. That didn't mean nothing to me. But
and your boy Ray Lewis did it.
Ray Lewis acting like he was union in the Catholic Church.
Two knees.
I got nothing for Ray Lewis. Right? And not only did he do it, but he came back and said, "I was praying." So use the Lord's name in vain like that.
Yeah.
But we gave Drew a pass. He was a great player for us. He did a lot of great things in the community. And 4 years later, showed your ass again. And so Drew's made over $200 million with the Saints. He got the best PR, the best team money can buy. So the fact that he came out with a statement doesn't move me. The fact that he shed tears, listen, he's a company man. He markets NyQuil. He's an actor. Okay, I could share. Guess where he shed tears from? He thought NBC was going to pull a contract. That's why he was crying. That's why he was crying. You know, he thought the Saints about to drop his ass. He thought Jameis was about to be started. That's why he was crying. And so I got nothing for Drew. I'm pulling for the Saints this year, but I have nothing for a guy who's played with 80% black teammates his whole career, who lives in a city that cherishes him, who supported him, who bought his jerseys, a city that's 70% black. You can't see our plight. You can't understand and have empathy for what our people, our children are going through. Then I'm done with you. And frankly, I have no more love. I don't have any ill will. And all those people who saying, he donated $5 million to the food bank. That's like somebody saying a racist saying I got a black friend, right? That's neither here nor there. You still ain't seeing it, bro. So I don't want to hear it. I'm done with you. QB1. That's what I got.
These false equivalencies have got to stop. Here was my take. My take was that in any mistake in life, there's a potential road to redemption. Some people, at some point, you say, I'm done. Maybe you have apologized and maybe you turn away and become a better person, but I'm not going to stick around to see if you become the better person because you've wronged me too much or too many times or too harshly, whatever the case may be. I don't put Drew Brees in that category. Listen, what Drew Brees said about the national anthem, Jim Brown, the great Jim Brown said, Dak Prescott said it. I guess Ray Lewis to some extent said it. Herschel Walker said it. So I get that we're 4 years removed, but we just finished going in on all these companies for basically doing something because everybody's doing it right now. Drew didn't do that. It was a huge mistake, obviously. It's left him in the predicament that he's in. In my opinion, it was tone deaf. It was insensitive. He failed to look at the world around him. And furthermore, when you listen to the actual question that was asked of him, he failed to even address the current stuff that was going on. I mean, the way the question was phrased, it was really a softball. It was a lob to say, given everything that you've just seen, do you understand now? And so it wasn't a question about just the way you feel. It was a question that was directly asking you to view everybody's perspective and now answer. And you completely ignored that part of the question and just talked about yourself. So it was selfish. It was tone deaf. It was a lot of things. But am I ready to call Drew Brees a racist? Not necessarily. Does he start with some strikes against him because he made the statement previously and because he was sitting in a VIP section with Donald Trump? Yes. But is there a road to redemption? I still say yes. I look at a person's history. I know Chris wants to give Drew no credit, but going back to Katrina, you got all these football fields that Drew built all around the city, tons of money donated, helping us rebuild the city. Fast forward, COVID-19. I believe he also donated a bit to Demario Davis's foundation, which does donate money to prison reform. So to say that he's totally, tone deaf to the African-American community because he talked about his grandfather being in the military and how he views the flag, I'm not ready to say he's written off for life. I think that there's a road to redemption. I don't know that he should have put in his statement that he intends to come out and be like advocate number one and lead the charge or whatever wording he used. I do appreciate that he responded to Trump's statement and called Trump out. And I'm not one that's going to immediately say that he faked tears in a private meeting with his teammates. I mean, I'm going to say that they know him better than me. And Mike Thomas, Mario Davis, Reggie Bush, there were a lot of guys that were willing to accept the apology and give him a chance moving forward. So I feel like he's not a personal friend of mine. It doesn't really cost me anything, but I'm willing to see who he shows himself to be moving forward.
Okay. I would like to agree with both you all, both statements, both point of views. I don't think Drew Brees is a racist. What's you say?
I don't either. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think he's a racist. I just think he's just used to growing up with privilege and they just say things because that's just what they believe, that they never had to deal with the police. They don't get frightened when a cop stops them. They like to argue and do things while we just sitting there like, yo, what you doing? You know what I'm saying? I've been in a situation like, what are you doing? Like, quiet. You know what I mean? Well, we get stopped by hostile pound and everything. But anyway.
Oh, yeah.
I had a coach who used to get out the car and walk to the police car. Said, "It'll be over in a second." I'm like, we are waiting for the bullets to start.
Right. Like, I've seen them like arguing, put their fingers in it. Like, yo, what you doing? Like, yo, what? Crazy. That's just a privilege. Like, they used to having privilege. Yeah. And he was just blinded. He was insensitive. So I think he learned from his mistakes. Me personally, I would have used this to cut his ass. You know what I'm saying? I would have used this to cut his ass. James Winston have been QB1.
Famous James.
And I was hoping he didn't apologize so we can cut him. Because I know that if he didn't apologize, I know his team was going to play.
Right.
I know that if they would have said, "Oh, I'm not playing," he's the quarterback.
We couldn't handle that dead cat money. We got too much dead cat money tied up in Drew Brees. Whenever he retires, we're gonna owe him probably an additional $20+ million. So if we cut him now, we'd be paying, be ridiculous.
Right, I know. But I mean, if they willing to forgive him, I guess I'll let it slide. But if he say one more thing, I think it's over. But anyway, he's gonna retire at the end of the season anyway, so it really don't matter. All right. So let's talk about the Saints. Of course, we had another losing season again. Losing season. We lost in the playoffs again for the third, fourth year in a row?
Yeah.
I believe the third, fourth year in a row. We lost again. And so what are your predictions for the New Orleans Saints this season? Do you think we're going to win the division? Do you think we have an opportunity to make it to the Super Bowl? What are your opinions? I'll start with Chris.
I mean, for the success of the podcast, I'm hoping they make it to the Super Bowl. But I told Rob this. We talked about it during the draft. I didn't like the move for the draft. We drafted Cesar Ruiz, who I think is going to be an outstanding offensive lineman. But we had Larry Warford, who we cut. But I just think in that situation, you created a hole to fill it. And so I think from a team that's win now, to have another rookie offensive lineman come in, I don't think that was the piece to take us over the top. And I think with Drew Brees' comments on top of that, I thought we were going to be, favorites, top 2 or 3 teams in the NFC to make a run. But every year we say the same thing, and we got cheated against the Rams. I'll admit that. But I think our stubbornness to commit to the run, especially when we get to playoff teams, Peyton just feels more comfortable putting the ball in Drew's hand. I thought, that against Minnesota, should have ran it down their throats. But we couldn't take the ball out of Brees' hands, and, what happened. And I think coming into this year, I thought it was going to be an uphill battle against the 49ers. But with Drew having those statements, I think they're going to forgive him. But I don't think you forget. And I think that's going to be that locker room is not going to be what it once was. And I think this is Drew's last year, and I just don't see it happening for us this year.
Yeah, I mean, to that same point, like, you really would have hoped that this would have been like win one for Drew, right? That these guys were galvanized around the fact that their 42-year-old quarterback was playing his last season and he had given his franchise everything he has. So now let's give him everything we've got. Now, there's always going to be that feeling in the back of guys' minds that, like, this dude don't really ride for me. And yeah, I forgave him publicly because once he did all of that, I kind of had to. Right. But are you really going that extra mile for this guy, the guy next to you? Are you really feeling him in the pregame chant like you used to? Like, we're going to battle together. And then there's the obvious elephant in the room. Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, right down the road of your division. Now you got to play them twice. And we play them week 1. Are we ready for that? Like, I would have easily said that we were the favorite without them coming here. But with those 2 guys coming to town, and you're talking about maybe a bit of a divided locker room, I don't really like that. I'm hearing rumblings that they are looking to sign Devontae Freeman to play running back. And, there's some money issues back and forth. But apparently I mean, nobody else is trying to sign him. So
Right.
all the trash he wants about what he thinks he deserves. I think when the season gets ready to start and nobody else has paid him, he's going to end up down there in Tampa Bay. We've talked a lot about their secondary being bad, but at a certain point, if they got so many weapons, we're in trouble.
Right. And let me just add one last thing too. We talk about Drew retiring at the end of this year. He signed a 2-year deal, and I'm not 100% sure he's retiring because the only thing Drew has over Tom Brady is statistics. He'll never catch him in Super Bowls. And so if you retire and Tom Brady continues to play, you lose your place in the record books.
Right.
And so I'm not 100% sure, and I don't think Peyton, Loomis, or ownership is going to force Brees out. So as long as he wants to play, I think he plays, and I'm not 100% sure he retires after this year.
Really? I mean, it's that time.
I'm ready for him.
The only reason we believe he's retiring is because of that NBC deal. But NBC supposedly said he can start when he's ready. The thought is just that he's going to want to start sooner rather than later.
I think it's just that time to move on.
I agree.
I think he's just holding our franchise back. I think we have two capable quarterbacks who can run the season. I think James Winston is a good quarterback, a solid quarterback. He can learn under new Drew Brees. But I think eventually, he take over in the middle of the season. Me personally, that's how I feel. And Taysom Hill, we just use him as he is right now. And I think if you put him and Winston together on the field, I think it'll catapult this offense into the Super Bowl championship caliber team.
Don't hold your breath. I'll say that. Don't hold your breath.
I'm not. All right. So next topic is, since everybody's on this Black Lives Matter movement, NFL is apologizing, everybody's talking about taking a knee. Do you all think that somebody will sign Kaepernick this season? Let's go, Chris.
I hope not, man. Listen, I told Rob this many times, right? I'm the biggest Kaepernick supporter out of anybody. I roll with him when he did it. I agree with him. I think he was blackballed, no doubt about it to me. But personally, as a Kaepernick fan, I don't want to see him go back. I believe his place in history, his legacy on social reform is stronger if he doesn't come back, because the narrative is he gave up his career. He did what no modern day athlete would ever be willing to do since Muhammad Ali. And that was give up his career in his prime to fight for a social cause. And because of that, I don't want to see an NFL now take him back, because like Rob mentioned, right, you're just doing it for the PR, just to show you're down for the cause when you're blackballed for the last 4 years. So obviously you weren't agreeing with his means of protest or his cause for that matter. And so I don't want to see him come back to the league and be a backup for 2 or 3 years, or come back and not be successful in the league because he hasn't played in 4 years. So frankly, they may try to do it, but if I'm Kaepernick, I hope he doesn't. I hope he sticks to his guns. And I think his place in history is solidified. And I think it's, the historical relevance of looking back on it 20, 25, 30 years down the line will be that much greater if he doesn't come back.
First of all, I'm gonna need Chris to just stop Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. Like, he just keep acting like that man didn't give up his career. And
he was national. He was an LSU alum too.
That man was still out there on the big three working people. He looked like with gray hair, he could go play point guard in the NBA right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, and it will be an issue for Kaepernick if he were to come back and not have success, because his last season in the NFL, he was benched and didn't have the greatest numbers. With the 49ers, I think, were 2-14. So if he were to come back and struggle, it lends itself to that commentary that, like, this dude really wasn't put out of the league for the protest. It was that he didn't have the talent. So, and with 4 years off, I mean, everybody knows. I mean, quarterback might not be as bad as a lot of other more physical positions like linebacker, running back, but 4 years off is a long time for football. To think that you're just going to come back out there. I mean, quarterback, although not as physical, is very much a rhythm position. And of course, it's important, like what offense and stuff. I don't know that I see it happening because, teams who had a chance to sign him are now coming out and making all these statements like, oh, we should have signed him back then. It's like, well, he's still He's
Right.
still goes right. Like Pete Carroll just said we should have signed him. I don't remember who they signed at that time. I know it was a black backup quarterback, maybe Tavares Jackson back then.
Maybe so.
Yes. Yeah.
And then I saw Steve Bisciotti for the Ravens released a statement. I don't know if he specifically spoke about Kaepernick because obviously I think he was offended by Kaepernick, which is why he didn't sign him. And then they got RG3. Another black backup quarterback considered a dual threat. So I just don't know if I see it happening because, first of all, because of COVID-19, the idea, like the ability to come and work out for a team with the receivers that they have is not going to be easy. There's no training camps even going on. So him accomplishing that aspect of it, the workout aspect, is pretty much not going to happen. And then all these teams that previously were considering him, I don't know that they even have those openings at this point at backup quarterback.
All right, cool. All right. So one last question for the day is, with all this, I won't say civil unrest, but social injustice, police brutality, all this Black Lives Matter movement moving around our country and in the world, where do you all see our country moving forward from this? And how do you think we should move forward? Should we do more peaceful protests? Should NBA players do more? Should more organizations continue to donate money? They say they're going to do. We have to evaluate it, since a lot of countries say they're offering $100 million, $50 million to small black business owners. So what do you all think we should, the country as a whole, how we should move forward? I'll start with Chris.
Yeah, I mean, I think money and power and influence make the world go round. And so I think it's not enough for these companies to say they're going to donate money, right? The Players Coalition got $100 million from the NFL 3-4 years ago, and we still having the same issue. So I think just throwing money at the situation is not the answer. However, I think it's about opportunity. And Rob mentioned it, and he's got a legal background. He can get more into the policy. But I think from companies, what we need is for Black employees, Black people to get opportunities, not only within the companies, just to have a job, like let's say, Walmart or Target, but to get positions of power, leadership, administrative roles where you can make decisions. Because why don't we have Black general managers and Black head coaches in the NFL? Because we don't have Black owners. And so until you put people in positions of power, then things are never going to change. I mean, the NFL is talking about, incentivizing teams to hire Black coaches and giving them draft picks.
I don't agree with that.
So at some point, you got to find ways to get Blacks and minorities in positions of power and leadership to enforce change, because it's proven that things as they are, and that's, white privilege, majority of positions, white people, they're not going to hire us. They're not going to give us those opportunities for the most part. I mean, you'll have one here or there, but for the most part. So I think we need more ability to become owners in just everyday ownership, more abilities to be, CEO, COO, CFO. So just positions of power and influence.
Rob?
Yeah, I mean, I think what has to happen is commitment to actual change. Right now, I'm not going to say getting played, but I think a lot of corporations are getting over on us by releasing statements and, different color Band-Aids and, whatever they can do that doesn't actually require them to actually change. I kind of feel like there's an expectation that this is just another one of those moments in history, but if we just wait it out long enough, everything's going to go back to normal. So let's do bare minimum right now until outside opens back up and people kind of forget about all of this stuff. I mean, realistically speaking, the numbers on police shootings, they're a little over 1,000 a year, and around 250 per year, let's say, would be African American. Those numbers haven't really changed probably over the last 3 years. What's changing right now, A, is body camera, B, is cell phone camera, and C, is we're all home to pretty much see each one of them every time they're released. These videos, you can go back and Google from 2016, 2015, 2014. Body camera has become a thing probably within the last 6 to 7 years. So there's been video out there, right? A lot of it has to do with the amount of attention we're able to pay because we're home. So the question is, now everybody's home, everybody's listening. What do we intend to do to influence change? I think, like Chris said, when the corporation says they're gonna do one little thing different or release a statement, you respond to the statement with an actual request. What does your leadership team look like? Would you be willing to commit to increase your leadership team by whatever percentage to people of color and African Americans and females and people from the LGBTQ community? Like, make a commitment to me, showing me that you're going to actually implement diversity into your leadership team so that the change will be long-term. Don't tell me about, some statement that you intend to release. And, just within my profession and the people that I work with on a daily basis, that's the debate we're having internally right now, is what is the statement that we're going to release look like? And then I find that there's this different crop of people that I'm a part of that says, what are we about to ask for? Because we have the world's attention, and you need both sides. You need the people pushing on the outside to make everybody feel uncomfortable, but then you need the people on the inside saying, in my industry, in my corporation, this is where you need to change to be better and to be better to people who look like me moving forward. And so I think that has to be across government. It has to be across corporations. And so I think everybody plays a part in that, because everybody works for a corporation or frequents a corporation in terms of making purchases that needs that diversity, right? And we have a podcast, we talk sports, so we're going to keep talking about that until, somebody listens to us.
All right, I agree. Ownership is the key, and I believe that Beyonce, I forgot what company she was trying to work with or partner up with. She said she refused to work with them because in the leadership or in the room she was negotiating with didn't have anybody personal color stuff for herself. She said she will not work with them until there's more diversity in the organization. And as far as owning our own things, ownership, building our own businesses, I think Tyler Perry said it best when he said, try not to get a seat at the table. You should just build your table, build your own table. Yep. So I think Black people, the Black community, we need to build our own things, build our own banks, build our own jobs, build our own economy, and stop relying on somebody else to save us. Other than that note, thank y'all for being on the podcast. This was great. I enjoyed it. Can you please let the people know about your social media handles and website? I'm about to post it up on here as well. So whoever wants to shoot that off right quick.
We got the Blitz with Rob and Chris. That is on Instagram, and that's on Twitter. And then the website is www.theblitzwithrobandchris.com. And then when you talk about streaming platforms, on every single streaming platform, Spotify, Apple, and SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcast from, that's where we are. And then, like we said, the last one is HTTPS, and then it's, colons / 979 the plug with 2 G's radio.com. That's where we can be heard every Monday night, 7:30 Eastern time, 6:30 Central time. And listen, when we're not on, they got some fire ass music playing 24/7. You log on to that radio station, you're gonna get music 24/7. So
all right.
We appreciate you, man, for the opportunity, Jared. So thanks a lot for having us.
All right, thank y'all. I appreciate y'all for having me on the early episode of your podcast, and I enjoyed this collaboration. Hopefully, I get it back on there once we see how Drew Brees is week 1 of the regular season.
QB1. That's gonna be a big game.
QB1. So, all right, y'all. Thank y'all for listening. Just always remember, Black Lives does matter. Support the movement. Don't quit. Keep it going. We have to ask for what we want. Matter of fact, stop asking this time. We just have to take it. You know what I'm saying? I ain't saying bodily, but y'all know what I mean. So peace, love, Black Lives Matter. We out. Thank y'all.
Peace.
Peace.